Hey, it's Chris. I was gonna make a what's on my iPhone video because a lot of people keep requesting that, but then I thought that was maybe a little too boring. So instead, I thought I'd do something that was kind of a level deeper. Like, instead of telling you what podcasting app I use, I'll tell you what podcasts I'm actually listening to, stuff like that. So this is kind of more of a personal video since the apps that a person uses and what they do with them says a lot about them. So what I'm gonna do today is cover things like the Apple shortcuts that I use, the podcasts and the music that I listen to, my preferred habit tracker, the one game that I actually really get into, and all kinds of stuff in between. Well, all right, since I already mentioned it, I'm just gonna go ahead and start with podcasts, which is something that I've been getting a lot more into lately, like this year and maybe the end of last year, because it's something you can do when you're in the car or when you're getting ready in the morning or when I'm sitting here filming B-roll for these videos. And yes, I am one of those people that listens at 1.5 times speed to cram in as much podcast info as I can get at a time. For a long time, Pocket Cast was my main podcasting app, but I switched back recently to the official Apple Podcast app. I listen to a lot of shows that are relevant to my daily work, so Sarah Dietschy's That Creative Life, the Gary Vee Audio Experience, the Tim Ferriss Show, David Perell's North Star, 1:37 p.m., stuff like that. I definitely listen to some tech podcasts like The Vergecast, Vector with the one and only Renee Ritchie, and John Gruber's The Talk Show. Every now and then when I want to broaden my horizons just a bit, then I check to see if there's a good intelligence squared debate that I can check out. Every now and then I listen to Pro Rata from Axios for business news and Left, Right, and Center for more balanced political takes. For entertainment, or usually mostly when I find myself on a really long trip, either in the car or on a plane, I listen to Rhett and Link's Ear Biscuits, and sometimes I also tune into The Moth just to hear some interesting stories. I also like to listen to RZIM's Just Thinking and Ask Away podcast pretty frequently as well. And if you're anything like me, I usually end up listening to like the first quarter or maybe a half, maybe 3/4 of a podcast before I either run out of time or move on to something else. I almost never get through one. I'm an Apple Music subscriber. If you've been here long enough, you know that I switched from Spotify quite a while back, and I've been happy here. Subscribers know that I listen to a lot of Andy Mineo, probably my favorite artist if I had to pick one right now, and I also like Lecrae and 1K Phew, among others from that same label. The other week, when I was building myslicedapple.com to show off all the best Apple accessories on Amazon, pretty much the only thing that I listened to that whole time we were putting that together was Marshmello's Fortnite Extended set. There's also this dude that I've been following for a while named Gene Shinizaki, who does some incredible beatboxing, who just came out with a new album, so I've been listening to a few songs off of there on repeat lately, although there's a couple I don't like as well. But if you've never heard him, you should definitely check out his song Jigsaw. The musicality of what he can do in terms of singing and making beats at the same time is nuts. I like several of Apple Music's playlists: Piano Chill, Brainwork, Loops, Minimalism, Next Tracks. Those are some things I listen to sometimes just to relax or maybe when I'm writing. And I've been trying to do more reading lately, so I've been reading some stuff in Apple's Books app. On top of that, I've also been getting into some audiobooks more this year with Audible, and no, this is not a sponsored thing. A book that I recently finished listening to was The Storm Before the Storm, which is about the fall of the Roman Republic. One of the apps that has a really big impact on my life is called Streaks, and it's a habit tracker that you may or may not have heard of that it just helps you track stuff that you want to complete every single day. There's a lot of different habit trackers. This one is my favorite. Even though it actually doesn't have my favorite interface, it's the one that I find myself able to use the most. The reason that it's awesome is because if you get a good streak going, like let's say you've been exercising perfectly for like 3 weeks, well, when that lazy day hits and you don't feel like doing it, you have this extra motivation to not break the streak. And as dumb as it sounds, like it really works pretty good. So I track things like waking up at 4:30 a.m. on work days. I try to read a chapter of a book every night. I track my sleep and I track drinking water, just that kind of stuff. One app that I basically check every day is Product Hunt. If you've been around here long enough, then you've heard me talk about this many times before. But it basically just showcases the best new tech startups and products and services. And if it wasn't for this app, I seriously wouldn't know about half the stuff that I know about. The Siri shortcuts that I use the most right now are Convert Burst to GIF, Dictate and Share, Calculate Tip, and a couple that I made. One to play music from my favorite playlist, one to read the latest Apple news, and one that's just a quick shortcut to a note that I've been working on a bunch lately. As far as apps go, Drafts wins my vote for VIP, could not work without it, must have, never want to lose it, app of the year, app of the decade. Every single episode of Unbelievably Useful starts in this app. Like when I suddenly discover an awesome iPhone feature or something that I never knew about, it immediately goes into drafts with a quick tag because it's just so fast. And then I can surf through the tags and easily create a script almost instantly once I've got enough tips or accessories or whatever it is that I'm storing up. Trello is where our team's content pipeline lives. So whenever we have a great idea for a video, it goes in here and it gets prioritized. I made a whole video on Apple Notes recently, so I won't go too in depth about it here, other than to say it's where I store and write content, and it's where I keep all the most important thoughts and notes and stuff that I frequently reference. So not just quick stuff like drafts, stuff that I'm really putting a lot of thought into. I do use Instapaper somewhat frequently. Like whenever I find an interesting article, I stash it here, and then I rarely ever get around to actually reading it. But what I mostly use Instapaper for is for research, which is something that I talked about in a recent video on how to be productive on your iPhone, which I'll make sure to link up down below. Basically, I gather the top articles on any given subject, read them through, highlight and make notes, and then I export those notes to Apple Notes before writing up a script. For news, I use Apple News, and I use it all the time. It's my favorite news app, and it easily replaced Flipboard for me the instant that it came out. Personally, I use the bookmarking feature all the time, and I love being able to put channels I'm most interested in at the top and just a tap away. Email. When it comes to email, I'm just not happy with the email situation because all my favorite email apps keep getting bought and shut down or just closing, running out of money, whatever. So most recently, I loved the Astro app, but it's gone now because someone bought it and shut it down. So right now, I've kind of been switching off between the Gmail app and the official Apple Mail app, neither of which are amazing. I haven't had too much time to game lately, but when I do, I've been pretty stuck on Badland Brawl. This is one game where I've actually spent some money on, I hate to admit, but I love multiplayer games, and this lets you team up with somebody else in 2 versus 2 battles, and the games are super short, so it doesn't have to eat up a bunch of my time. 2 other of my most used apps are New Bible and Logos. New Bible was designed by some Twitter designers, and Logos is just super powerful, not to mention super expensive. So just to round things off, Fantastical is my calendar app right now. I use it like once a month. 1Password is my password manager because it just seems to be the nicest. I get a lot of packages, and Deliveries is still the app that I'm using after all these years to keep track of those. And while I don't use it frequently, Halide is the camera app I turn to when I need to take some particularly awesome photos. So if there's any icons that you saw in previous videos or in this video that I didn't touch on or talk about, but you're interested, let me know. I'll try to answer some comments, or maybe we'll do a follow-up, something like that. Don't forget, you can follow @DailyTech, spelled daily Tekk, on Instagram and Twitter. And hey, I would love for you to comment and tell me what your favorite apps are. Like, what's your one go-to app that you can't live without? Like, for me, it's drafts. Let me know down below, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Later.